second Fireside Chat. I am not sure when we'll be having the next one as the weather is getting warmer, so we might not have the fireplace on, but who knows? If you have looked at the Weather Channel, I swear May is like across the board. They're having like blizzard type conditions back in the Northeast. It's kind of strange, but right now it is beautiful outside. So beautiful that G is washing Penny. She's quite dusty. And I wanted to say to all of you, Happy Mother's Day! For those of you who have had a mother, and those of you who are a mother, in whatever form that mother, you know, you could be a mother to a girlfriend sometimes. So happy Mother's Day to all of you. You fathers out there, you'll get yours on Father's Day. Well, I have gotten my quilt back from Hal, who is the long arm quilter that's just around the corner from me. And I will post in the description box his link. So I do know that some people send him quilts to be quilted. He's a one-man operation though, so you know it might be kind of crazy, but I love how my t-shirt quilt turned out. I am now tacking down the binding. So if you need to go get something to sew so we can sew together, do it right now. Because I'm going to be tacking the binding while we do our Q&A. But just to show you, isn't it fabulous? Look at that quilting. I mean, it turned out fabulous. So I got to get the binding done. That'll take me a while because I am hand stitching it and using my stitch pillow, which I absolutely love, because you can see if I was having this on my lap, I would be bending over, my head would be tipped, and you can't do it for very long. Your shoulders and your neck just kind of give out. So with my stitching pillow, of which I will put the link below in the description box of the video where I show how I made it, and that is thanks to a friend of mine who showed me. So but you can see that it brings the whole project up closer, and so I don't have to tip my head over or lean forward. I can relax and stitch. Of course, you can see I use I use big long threads so that if I need a little bit of cool air, when I pull it up, my arm flaps and gives some cool air. Oh geez. Things you don't want to know. But back to Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. It will be tomorrow. Today is Saturday. And we're going to enjoy the weather while we can, because next week, back to rain. I mean, it's just kind of like a Mother Nature is teasing us. It's just teasing us. And today we will be announcing the winner chicken dinner of the gift card to the Stitching Post. And I'll talk more about that later. But I do have to just tell you a story. And I'm going to say, first of all, this is not a story that's like a pat on the back to me. The reason I want to share it is because it's just amazing how the world works. what you put out into this world is what you get back. And I am here to tell you, I got that message loud and clear this week. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. So here's how the story goes. You know, it's feeling kind of, every day G and I talk about all that's going on in the world. And we have accepted that every day there might be a moment, something you hear or see or feel that makes you do a little bit of a downtick. And so then you just have to write it out, because then something within yourself, or something that will happen will make it rise again. And what I know about myself is that if I'm kind of down in the dumps, if I do something kind for someone, it ends up not only being a gift for them, but it's a gift for me, because I notice that my heart lifts up a little bit. And so on a particular day this week, I was feeling a little bit down, and I thought, what am I going to do? I rarely, in our times now, I rarely run into people where I can, do something or talk or share or whatever. And so I thought I had to go to the post office to mail something out of the United States, and they wouldn't do it at my mailbox. I had to go to the main post office. And so I realized that I was only a block away from Fika Coffee, which is my girlfriend's coffee shop that she opened last year. And I thought, and then the funny part of the story is I pull into the post office, and there's Renee's dad, who quilted this quilt. He's out in front of the post office with, how people are hired to twirl those signs and advertise. Here's her dad twirling a big coffee cup, advertising that Fika's around the corner. I tell you, it takes a village here in Sisters. And I was going there anyway, so I took it, oh wow, there's another sign. So I went over to Fika, and there were 3 people in line. You have to stay 6 feet apart. And I had my mask on and my gloves. And when I got up to the doorway, the shop is closed, but she steps back from the counter in the doorway to take your order. And I told her that I wanted to buy a gift card to keep on file at her shop, so that this next week she could give a cup of coffee to a mother in celebration of Mother's Day, and as a little act of kindness. I did it for myself, and I wanted to help Fika because all our small businesses are struggling, but mainly did it for myself because I just needed a little boost emotionally. And sometimes when you're kind to someone else, you find out that that gift is really for you too. So that's what I did. And here's where the story gets really interesting. The very next day, I get a message from Chris, who is a follower, a watcher. that hangs out here. Thank you, Chris. And she sends me an email and says that she called up Fika Coffee. Now, mind you, she doesn't know. I mean, we are virtual friends and not, like, she didn't know what I had done the day before at Fika. But she called up Fika Coffee because I guess she's heard me talk about them, and we had our meet and greet last year at Fika Coffee during the Sisters Quilt Show. She called up Renee and purchased a gift card for G and I to have coffee and treats there. I mean, really? It happens all of the time. It happens all of the time where the world, and we know who might, be connecting us, human to human, person to person, kindness to kindness. I was just blown away. I said, wow, what you put out is what you get back. That is absolutely the truth. What you put out. And the world is so much smaller than we think. I don't know how many times I have had incidences where I kind of shook my head and went, really? Really? Is this even possible? What are the chances? That kind of thing, So it's a little, as I said, the gifts I got back were tenfold. Tenfold. I mean, it was just amazing. I had to read Chris's email to G because I couldn't believe it. I absolutely couldn't believe it. I just love the back of this fabric. I mean, I like words. And this has all kinds of wonderful words printed on the back. Be kind to our planet. Grow a garden. Nurture nature. It's just so much fun. So that was my story for the week, at least until we get into the questions. So how about we get into the questions, huh? Just so you know how I do the binding, I cut 2.5 inch bias strips, and then I press it and attach it, leaving a little bit of the batting and backing, it looks like about 1/2 inch of the batting and backing, so it ends up stuffing the binding. And then I use those little red clips to hold it down. And I move the clips along as I go, so I'm going to move them down here. Okay, so let's get to some questions, huh? Oh, this is going to be a nice warm quilt. Okay. Let's see. Well, Valerie asked me if there was a place that I haven't been that I would want to visit. And if I could travel again. And I have to say, my list is wide. We are, I grew up in a traveling family, and we are, my oldest son had been to more countries by the time he was 12 because my mother was, besides being a realtor, she was a travel agent. So we were always traveling. But the one place I have not been, and I saw my mother's picture standing in front of the Sydney, I think it was the Sydney Opera House. I would like to go to Australia if I were to travel overseas again. I mean, I love all the places I've been. I mean, I would like to see Venice again with that clear water. Did you see on the internet where they actually saw a jellyfish swimming in the canal? The last time I was on that canal, it stunk. So all of this has been a kindness to Mother Nature for sure. But I think I would like to go to Australia. My friend Jen Kingwell has a shop in a little touristy beach town, and her shop has a little cafe in it. Yeah, I would like to go there. Of course, that would mean I'd have to actually finish one of her projects. I have so many of them started. But yeah, I think Australia, if I were to pick one place. Laura asked, what was my first wool project? And what are good starter wool projects? I think my first wool project, I don't even know the name of it. It was a block of the month that I did through so many quilts in Bend. And pretty basic motifs, and it's all buttonhole stitched on the wool. But I love it. I absolutely love it. It's hanging over our bed. And if I were to pick projects for beginners, I think I would start with projects by Buttermilk Basin, mainly because the motifs are fairly simple. They're absolutely adorable. You use either a whip stitch or a buttonhole stitch, so the stitching can be very basic, and because they have kind of a prim look, you're not doing a lot of fancy things, and they just appeal to the homey nature of life. So I think, and she sells little kits for little projects where everything is in it. And I think that's a good way to start for a beginning wool. Let's see. Barb asked, what was my favorite childhood memory? I had so many childhood memories. My parents were not run-of-the-mill parents. Yeah. It makes me laugh because there's so many. I mean, I didn't have run-of-the-mill parents. I did not have a Leave It to Beaver household by any means. But I know that one time we used to go camping a lot in Yosemite. My mother loved to camp. I mean, she camped as a girl in Korea by herself. She'd go out on one of the islands and camp. But and she was also very frugal. So back in the day, you could go into Yosemite National Park and camp for $2. It was $2 a carload. And so she would take us into Yosemite and set up a tent. And she had great pride in her fire starting abilities, you know, her campfire starting abilities. And then on the weekend, my dad would show up. He'd check into there was a little lodge cabins there. He'd check into that, and then she'd go to the cabins and stay with him. and us kids would stay at the tent. And those were such sweet times. You felt safe. And we used to joke that my dad idea of camping was black and white TV. But during the day then, my dad would come down to the campsite and we'd be sitting around the picnic table there, and my mom had a Tupperware container with hamburger in it in the Merced River to keep it cold because the water was so cold. And a bear came along and got that Tupperware, and he had the whole Tupperware bowl and lid in his mouth. And my mom screamed, and she had a spoon, and she started chasing him. And the bear's running down the river with this Tupperware in his mouth. And she's chasing him. I had a mother that was fearless, let me just tell you. And then finally the bear dropped the Tupperware. And to the day she died, she had that Tupperware, and it had teeth marks punctured in the lid. Oh yeah. I believe my sister has that Tupperware, but I'll never forget that vision. Oh shoot, I think I must have been around maybe 12, somewhere around there. Yeah. This can be a long Q&A, let me tell you. Okay. How long have I been camping? From the day I was born. I was actually born on a beach in an Army tent hospital that was on the beach. So I can say I was born camping, and I've been camping my entire life. It's in my blood. Let's see, I don't even understand some of my notes. Okay, let's see. Linda asked me, favorite places to visit. I have to say, I mean, gosh, it would be hard for me to pick one place. And there's so many places I haven't been yet. But I really love Custer State Park in South Dakota. Absolutely beautiful. Loved every moment I was there. And the state of Utah, I used to tell G, something must have happened in Utah to make the terrain look like this. I mean, it's, you just, every mile you're running into something that you're like, makes your mouth drop open, you know. I loved Jeju Island, which is an island off of Korea. It's an island that, it's like a giant orange grove. Everything, they grow oranges, and it's a international surfing mecca. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So there, I don't know if I could pick favorite places. That'd be hard. Libby asked, how did I design the beehive? I did not. G and I were working when we built this house. We didn't have a lot of time. We gave the builder a conceptual idea. All I said was, I need a sewing room. It's okay if it's over the garage. You know, I prefer it to have flat walls if I could, instead of pitched walls. And so it was designed. It was designed by a subdivision builder, let me tell you, and they did a great job. I mean, they did a great job. We love the flow of our house, and yeah, but I had nothing to do with that. I did have, you know, I did lay out my different sewing stations in it, and I knew that I wanted to be able to look out the window when I was at my sewing machine. And so my sewing machine and my cutting table are against one bank of windows. So other than that, it pretty much, I didn't design it. What was my favorite thing to do in elementary age? You know, it was a much easier time in some ways to be a child, than it is now. So my favorite thing was on summer evenings, we would be playing in the street, literally in the street. All the kids on the street would be playing out there till 10 o'clock at night. We'd be playing ball or roller skating or hula hoops, or we just played outside, and nobody was there. Our parents were inside watching Ed Sullivan or something. It was just an easier time, and we can wish that for our own grandchildren, but that world is gone. That world is gone. So I think that was my favorite thing to do, besides camping. We camped a lot. Let's see. Claudette asked about my nursing career. I only worked in hospitals, both in California and Oregon. I knew right away that I was not, my instructor wanted me to be an ICU nurse because I was just really technically comfortable with machinery, but I wasn't one of those people that became a nurse because I had this undying urge to help people. It was a very, very practical decision for me. I graduated from the university in California with a degree that would get me welfare if something happened to G. It served its purpose, more importantly, in the rest of my life, because I got a degree in behavioral psychology, and in some ways I used to say that was more important to my life than my nursing degree. But unless you went on to become a psychiatrist or a psychologist, there really wasn't a lot of work for a bachelor's degree. And then I got married, and it wasn't until my first child was, I guess, he was only about 3 months old, that I literally fell into a panic, because all I could think about was, oh my gosh, if G divorced me or died, God forbid, I would be on welfare with this baby, and I had to do something. And so I went to the local college to figure out what degrees they offered, because G had a good job and we couldn't move. And so I checked out the local college to see what I could study that I could make a good living in 2 years or less. See, I was just really practical. And they offered a dental hygienist, and they offered a nursing degree. And I don't know, I thought, okay, I'm going to do nursing. And then but I really didn't enjoy body fluids too much, which is so funny for what I picked. But I decided that nursing provided such a variety of opportunities within its own career. And so when I graduated, I went straight into labor and delivery. and was there for many, many years. Did NICU for a little while, for about a year, and then pre-surgery, which was the support in getting the patients into the OR. So, and I loved every moment of my nursing career. Nurses rock. Suzanne asked who would inherit my stash. Well, having two sons, neither of which are interested in stitching, I have two daughter-in-laws, but they don't have time to stitch. So whether they would be interested in it or not, I don't know. But I have always told my girlfriend, Robin, you know, her father just passed away at 103. But I've always told her that I shop for her. that she hates it when I say that, but it makes me feel better when I'm shopping. So I would say that Robin will be the person who will at least be going in evaluating what happens to my stash. I'm not sure she wants that job, but she's got that job. And so, let's see. Oh, I wanted to talk a little bit about the virtual quilt show. You know, people have been saying, oh good, there's a virtual quilt show, even though it's been canceled. But you have to understand at the same time, that is nothing like what we're gonna miss. You know, it won't be anything like, because the quilt show consists of quilts from 1,200 quilters, usually, from around the world, send their quilts here. Well, nobody's sending their quilts. There's nobody to process the quilts that are being sent, because the quilt show has been canceled. So the virtual quilt show that is probably going to be whoever locally wants to hang their quilts up themselves. There's no team that's going to be hanging quilts up, or, you know, it is going to be what it is, but nothing. So if you want to really enjoy the flavor, if you're new and you really want to enjoy the flavor of the quilt show, go back to last year's quilt show, because we videoed the entire quilt show, G and I. And so you get a sense of what it's like to walk around our town and see the quilts hanging all over town, because it really is a bucket list. It's the largest outdoor quilt show, and so it's worth seeing. It is worth seeing. It's worth planning for in the future. Where is my favorite place in the beehive? Well, I could say rolling around in my stash, but that's in a closet. I love it. I love being at my sewing table, because I can see out the window, and it means I'm getting something done. But there's a rocking chair up there that belonged to G's mother, and I love sitting there and stitching, hand stitching. And I love that spot too. Oops, got a little bit of a knot there. You get those knots when you make your thread so long. Okay, let's see. Patricia asked me where would I like to travel next if I could travel. Well, my mother gave me a list of things I should see in my lifetime. And, you know, they included, you know, the Eiffel Tower, Korea, Mount Sorak. We climbed Mount Sorak one year. That was an amazing adventure. So we've done pretty much, I mean, the last, not the last thing on the list, but the last list item that we had completed was to visit Mount Rushmore. And that video is, if you look back on Quilt Roadies, you'll see that video. And I have to say that visit to Mount Rushmore was the most amazing. My mother was right. I needed to see that once in my lifetime because it was it's just unfathomable that someone figured out how to do that by blasting. Back in the decade they did it in, it's amazing. Now I was surprised when we put that video out that there were people that said they were disappointed how small it was. I was like, my mouth was open that someone could even do that. And the one on the reservation, even though it's barely completed, it still was spectacular in how, just the process of how, you know, they didn't have computers back then to figure things out, you know. This was all math on paper and a whole lot of prayer, you know. But that was the last completed item, and so we only have one left, and that is Lake Louise and Banff. And someday we'll wrap that one up. And I would like to take the Rocky Mountain Railway to Lake Louise. But boy, was it expensive. It was more than any cruise vacation, that was for sure. But someday we'll do that. Now, then I'll have completed my mother's list. Gloria asked, when did I first meet Sue Spargo? Well, Sue comes to Sisters 2 or 3 times a year, so it would have been here that I couldn't remember specifically, but it would have been here that I first met her. And she is absolutely a lovely, lovely teacher. Just very sweet and calming, you know, because you're pretty freaked out when you're in the class, but she just makes it all so lovely, and I really enjoy her as a teacher and as a person. Yeah. Nancy had asked my favorite place to visit, and it would be probably Jeju Island. It's an amazing place, amazing place. How many animals have I had? Well, I've had several dogs, but Enzo truly was the smartest of the pack. Well, I don't know, I can't say that. In some ways, he was dumber than a box of rocks. Our dog Yoshi, though, he was, I would say Yoshi was smarter than Enzo. But Enzo was the sweetest. Oh, he was so sweet. Yoshi, though, would watch TV. Enzo never could understand what I was pointing at on the TV. And we've had birds. We've had a whole passel of fish. We've had cats, although, see, I'm deathly allergic to cats, anaphylaxis to cats, so I can't. They were all outdoor barn cats. And then, but I love them all. And I can only have certain kinds of dogs because I'm allergic, so that's the challenge we have. Beth asked me, how do I struggle with isolation and how do you stay motivated? Well, I desperately miss all my stitchy girlfriends in terms of seeing them. You know, when you wear a mask out, you really have to pay attention to people's eyes because you don't get the human emotion, you know, of smiling when you pass by someone. And I am so blessed that that I have G, who, you know, I kind of like him. And we give each other a lot of grace. You know, we give each other a lot of grace, that's for sure. So I'm not totally alone, which I think would be even more challenging for those of you out there that are by yourself. I think that would be really difficult. Zoom has been fun. It's not the same, but I have enjoyed at least that level of communication. And staying motivated, I think it's just talking with other stitchers and seeing things online that I get excited about, and the giving nature of the craft that we've chosen keeps me more motivated, because you tend to be like working on something for someone else, which is a feel-good, it's just a feel-good moment. I don't think there's any one answer for that. I think it's totally individual how you, what works for your heart and brain. Yeah, I think that is that would be the million-dollar question. I was an RN for about, and Pam asked that, I was an RN for about 30 years. And my favorite memories, I tell you, if there's one thing I had, maybe it's because I was an RN at an older age, I had, I would say I had extremely good intuition. And so my favorite memory is I used to work at a county hospital. So our patient demographic was generally made up, our population, the hospital population was probably, I'm just guessing here, but I would say about 3/4 of our population was where English was a second language. And so you had to, for one thing, learn another language, and another thing, pay attention to other forms of communication in body language. And I think my favorite, one of my, I mean, we could be here all day with my nursing stories, let me tell you. But I won't bore you with them. But I'll give you one. I was a labor and delivery nurse. Oh my God, I could give you so many. I could give you so many stories. But I was a labor and delivery nurse, and this woman came in, and she was very calm, and she said, I think I'm in labor, and I was typing away, you know, that was before computers, and I was typing away, and I just wanted to finish this one paragraph, this one chart note, and so I said, okay, why don't you have a seat right there? All we had, there was no fancy cushions, chairs there. There was only benches, you know. And I said, why don't you have a seat and I'll be with you in just a minute. And so then I went back to typing and I'm like looking at her out the corner and she's just calmly sitting there and the intuition took over. And I said, I think I have to just stop this. And so I stopped and I said, well, let's go into the examination room. And I took her in. I checked her. She was completely dilated. I was like, oh my God. And back then, we didn't have labor birthing rooms. We had to take the patient from the triage area on a gurney into an OR room to deliver, a designated delivery room that could also crack down into an operating room. So I called, it was a teaching hospital, so I called the med student who was on duty, and I'm pushing her into the delivery room, getting her on the thing. He comes running in, putting his gloves on, get her up in stirrups. The baby plops right out, and she says, so glad that's over. I tell you, I knelt down on the floor and I said, please make my next birthing experience like this. But yeah, she was Samoan. And let me tell you, them is some strong women. Yeah, they are some strong women. Okay, so then, well, that's the end of my list. That's the end of my question list that I could get. So the question and answer thing has been kind of fun for me. I hope it was okay for you because, you know, all I'm doing is talking here. But why don't I'm going to tell you who won the gift card to the Stitch and Post. And I'm also going to tell you that I went yesterday because they opened up, they have limited hours. And so I thought I would go do a video of the inside of the Stitch and Post, and that is going to come out maybe in about 2 or 3 days. G still has to edit it, but I thought it would be a good thing to watch for whoever the winner is, and for those of you that didn't, just to see if you want to call up the Stitch and Post and put an order in. They have been so good. So yesterday was their first day of, they opened the front door. And so you don't have to do drive-by shopping unless you want to. But when you come through the front door, they tell you to stop, and so you stop right there. And the person who's working the desk will let you in depending on how many people are within the shop. And they've rearranged the shop so that the aisles are bigger, the areas are more spaced out, and that way you have ease in passing someone. But they would only let like 4 people in that huge shop. And when you walk in the front door, there are boxes of gloves, and I was happy to see that they had nitrile non-latex gloves along with latex gloves because I'm allergic to latex. And they had hand sanitizer, you know, and they asked that you wear a mask. And so I went in and was blown away. They had hung all new quilts. I did not intend to buy any patterns, and I did, because there's all new quilts. And I found a backing for a Halloween quilt I had made that was 50% off, and it was Halloween. That was like a great find. And they had this huge spool of elastic that you could buy by the yard for masks, and I bought some of that. So that video will be out in like about 3 days. It's for those of you that won't make it this year to our town. They have a great online presence. If you see something in the video that you would not see on their website, you can still call them and ask them about it. It was really fun just to see everything. And so for the winter, I'm happy to say you're going to have a good time. And I used the random number generator. And just so you know, I noticed that, and I had the same problem, that some of you put stitching, which is the real title, and some of you put stitching with a G, which is, yeah, makes sense. So in order to make sure everybody got to be part of that, including the people that didn't comment on the actual site but were on the Facebook or Woolly site, I compiled all of that and then used the comment picker post, because everyone put post. So that was the word that I used, not stitching or stitching. So those of you that were worried about that, don't worry, I use post. And the winner, I was so tickled when I saw this. The winner is Carol Watkins. And I love this because she said, I am new to quilting. Can you imagine? She's new to quilting. That means she might not have the stash or stuff that's overflowing in her house. I am new to quilting, so I look forward to going online to the stitching post to see what goodies I need. I absolutely love Quilt Roadies. Well, Carol, you're the winner chicken dinner. So email me your mailing address and I can send you that card and you will have a wonderful time. And know that we'll do this again. We'll do this giveaway again. It sounds like this is more fun to get a gift card than get my old patterns. So we shall see how we do it. Thank you for stopping by for the Fireside Chat. And I hope you are all healthy and well. And I'll see you in the, let's see, next video will be the stitch and post video view. And then the one after that, back in the beehive. Yeah, we have to stay motivated and we have to get some stuff done. Thank you for stopping by. We love you all. In the comments, oh my gosh, the comments are just, they're the best. You guys are the bomb.
Thanks for watching.
And be sure to like and subscribe on Quilt Roadies.